That's a good way to start. Honestly, it is. You know that laughter is actually good for the soul. When we laugh, actually, we stimulate our vocal cords. We stimulate, and that's connected. There's a nerve there that is the calming nerve of the body, the longest nerve in the body, runs all through. So laughter, when the Bible talks about laughter being good for us, it is indeed good. It can calm anxiety. That's the same reason why humming, when you hum and singing, anything that stimulates those areas long enough actually calms us. It brings us back to ground level. So thank you. Thank you for making it back. Because sometimes some of the hard stuff we talk about, it can be quite challenging. So I'm pleased that all that stuff has scared me away. So in this session, we're going to talk a bit more about really common mental conditions, anxiety and depression. And I'm glad that both Sister Joy and Sister Tanja look like they've got quite a lot of information out on their table there. I encourage everyone to visit there. Because this is really very important information, I'll put it up front so I don't forget to say it. And that's that sometimes asking for help for mental conditions is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Seeking help is a strength, not a weakness. And understanding where we need help is also a strength. So seeing a therapist or seeing a counselor, it's not contrary to faith. It's not. And I think it's important that because like I said, a lot of those principles are actually Bible-based. And in the last 5 years, I've seen a lot of believers trained to become counselors, trained to become therapists. So these days, it's not an excuse to say, oh yes, I don't think I'll be able to connect. I don't think somebody will understand my faith or my background. Those days are gone, thankfully. We now have enough people who can understand us, who can connect with us. I agree that therapeutic relationship is important. In seeking help, we need people who get us. If your therapist don't get you, then there's something not right. But it's important, there are now people who get us and who I can say, yes, that's somebody who really understands where I'm coming from. They understand my journey. And the place to start will usually be the GP. But these days also there's NHS talking therapies. NHS talking therapies, people can refer themselves. And people think that you don't have to need a diagnosis to refer yourself. There's no need for a diagnosis. One can, even sometimes one is going through the pressures of life. And when I talk about these things, I try to be as transparent as possible because I think it's important for us to talk about real issues. Sometimes we experience life and that can take a toll on our emotional well-being. Sometimes it's losses, sometimes it's change. I was talking earlier that I do run a group, an online group, and we talk about mental conditions. This May we are talking about menopause and mental health, and the reason is because that's a change that we also don't talk about well enough in our community. And it's taking, because of the secrecy about it, people are suffering in silence, people are not feeling able, and they feel that they are by themselves. So just to say, importantly, speak to the GP if you feel there's anything amiss, or you can even go on the NHS Talking Therapy website and refer yourself. And there's quite a lot of information on those tables as well. But importantly, please don't suffer in silence. Even if it means speaking to somebody, confide in somebody to start with, somebody that you know will hold your confidence and will help you, support you to move along in your journey. So we're going to show a video now on depression. I think it's a 1 minute clip or so, but it captures it so well, and it's from the Royal College of Psychiatrists. And also, if you are looking for credible information sources, because unfortunately, I like the fact that we now talk more about mental health, but the challenge is that there's also a lot of
garbage.
I don't know what to say. Yes, there's a lot of not very valid information out there. Because the problem is that if I came to you today now and I said I wanted to fly a plane, unfortunately, if I go online and start writing about flying planes, when in actual sense I've never been in a cockpit, nobody is going to challenge me. That's the way the internet is. So everybody is a mental professional now. Yes, everybody is an accomplished mental, even when all they've done is to do a one-day course. And that's the challenge, and they put information out there that is not always credible. The reason I'm saying all that is that one of the places one can go to is the Royal College of Psychiatrists website. The Royal College has been around for over 100 years. And I can vouch that whatever information we put out, it's been tried and tested. And there's virtually no mental condition that's not been listed on there. So if you are looking for any information, there's actually a place on mental that you can click on and just search, and it brings up the condition, and it says it in lay language. So please, let's.
We all feel down sometimes. It can last for a week or so without affecting our lives too much. Sometimes there's a reason, sometimes not. But with depression, your feelings go on for weeks and months, and they do interfere with your life. Depression has many symptoms, and you're unlikely to feel them all. It can make you feel unhappy most of the time. You might struggle to cope, lose interest in life, and feel like you no longer really enjoy anything. Depression can also affect your self-confidence, making you feel hopeless and inadequate. You might find yourself avoiding social situations. It can also affect your sleep. You might find it hard to get to sleep and feel utterly tired all the time. At depression's worst, you may even think of suicide. Luckily, there are steps that you can take to lift yourself out of depression. It can be incredibly helpful to talk about your feelings with a close friend or family member. You may find you need to do this more than once as part of the healing process. If you know what's behind your depression, try tackling it. Write down your problems, then make a list of solutions and pick the best. Keep active. Get out of doors for some exercise, even if it's just a walk. If you don't feel up to it, try housework and day-to-day tasks. Keeping active will help you sleep. If sleep's a struggle, relax by watching television or listening to music. It may help you to feel less anxious and help you get some sleep. Depression can ruin your appetite or cause you to overeat. Try to eat 3 times a day, making sure you get plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables. Don't drown your sorrows with drinking. Alcohol actually makes depression worse. It's normal to feel depressed after a distressing event, but you can get stuck in a depressed mood that doesn't seem to lift. You need to seek help if your feelings are worse than usual and don't seem to get any better. If depression affects your work, interests and feelings towards your friends and family, if you start to feel that life's not worth living, or that people would be better off without you, you need to talk to your GP. Depending on your situation, your doctor may suggest ways of helping yourself, talking treatments or antidepressants. Talking treatments can help you to get things off your chest and tackle unhelpful thinking patterns. If your depression is severe or long-running, antidepressants can help you to feel and cope better. Whatever you decide, remember lots of people have had depression. You will eventually come out of it, perhaps even stronger and able to make important changes in your life. To find out more about depression, visit the Royal College of Psychiatrists website.
that's a nutshell of what really, depression is not, it's a medical condition. That's one thing for them to know, that it's a medical condition. It's not normal sadness. It's a morbid state of sadness where everybody gets a bad day. But the problem with depression is it's almost like a sense of heaviness and just morbid state of sadness where normal things that should bring you joy does not bring you joy. And there are three core things to look for. One, it's that sadness that doesn't shift. The pattern is usually that somebody starts the day thinking, oh God, it's another day, rather than thank God, it's another day. And then secondly, as the day wears on, the mood lifts. However, come the next day again, it's the same pattern. Feeling like one that doesn't feel able to face the day or get out of bed. Energy is low, no matter how well rested the person is. And of course, the other one is that one loses the pleasure one does not derive any pleasure from life again. Particularly in terms of the grandmother who lives her life for her grandchildren cannot just stand children running around her home any longer. The die-hard Arsenal fan. I hope there's no one of them here. Hopefully I will just ruffle some feathers. Okay, let's go to Chelsea then. Hopefully I will jump from 500 into the flying stuff. Right. So the die-hard Chelsea fan cannot be out switching on the television to even think about watching it at all. So and of course, so those are like the core symptoms: low energy, loss of interest and pleasure in life, and more sadness that tends to shift for. It's like it's always there. It comes back again. It's called diurnal motivation in terms of one wakes up, one feels like one cannot feel. Yeah, the day wears on, particularly towards the evening, one feels better. And really, usually when the reason why people feel better is because thank God I can take comfort in my bed. It's taking solace in bed, but unfortunately there's no solace there. The reason why there's no solace is because there's also poor sleep. For depression, the pattern is that one wakes up, it's called early morning waking. One wakes up about 2 hours earlier than one should be waking up, at least 2 hours earlier. For anxiety, it's the opposite. One cannot go to sleep. And if it's then other types of illness like bipolar disorder, for instance, one does not feel the need to sleep. So so even from the sleep pattern, you can begin to feel the worst of the condition. And then, of course, concentration goes, motivation goes. And it's important to know these symptoms because sometimes, I think in our communities, and sometimes when in church as well, we think people are being lazy, when in actual sense they are depressed. We think people, oh, she's let herself go. Actually, maybe she's struggling with postnatal depression. And people think, oh yeah, she's just, after she's done that second child, she just let herself go. She's just like, no. Maybe there's a lot more going on. And it's about really giving that person support rather than giving them a label or a stigma. So concentration goes, motivation goes, and then people can either lose weight or even put on weight. And it's also known that sometimes we used to think it was just that people stop eating, their appetite goes. But sometimes it's also an increased appetite, particularly a craving for sugar or sweet things. So it could be weight loss or it could be weight gain. And the other thing that happens is really what happens in the mind. The depression is associated with three classical thinking patterns. Helplessness, feeling helpless, like one is never going to get out of this. Feeling hopeless, that one is never going to, there's no help, there's no hope, but also feeling worthless. And unfortunately, when all of those three happen, the next thing that then follows is suicidal thinking. One of the things that I do when, and it almost always works in consultations, when I see somebody is depressed in this, I tell them, I say, I know you are currently going through a dark tunnel. It doesn't feel like there's light at the end of that tunnel. I know you don't have any hope, and I can understand that's the condition. But I've got hope for you, and I will hold up to your hope for you. I'll guard and keep that hope. And I expect that at some point I can give back your hope to you, so you can take it with you. And it's always one of the most exciting things I find is the consultations when I can say, I can see on your face, I can see the way you've come into the room today that you can now have your hope back. And that's fulfilling. And that's the reason why I give that illustration is that people can get to the place where they can have their hope back. Some of the things that have been said there about nurturing, about taking care of our bodies, exercise, reading up about the condition, not isolating ourselves. All of those things actually help. And of course, I'm a hot person when it comes to meditation, because now all of the things, there's quite a lot of research now showing. And there are so many scriptures to really think about. Psalm 23 is one of them, when one is agitated. That's a classic one. Psalm 26, Isaiah 26:3 is one of them. You keep in perfect peace whose mind is stayed upon you, because you trust in you. Romans 12:1-2 is one of them. In one of the handouts that I've got that we also sent around, I've got a list of everything, every common condition, emotional challenges that we face, and the scriptures that we can actually meditate on. The interesting thing is that we know that it's not just saying it once, it's not just thinking about it once. It's habitually thinking about it, it's habitually mulling on it that actually causes a rewiring of the brain. We now know that happens, that we can rewire circuits, and it works both ways. So if it's the good, that's why if our thinking passes the Philippians 4:8 test, then things go in the right direction. If it fails the Philippians 4:8 test, I beseech you therefore, brethren, although it's not it says whatever things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are pure, whatever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. That's offensive, not defensive. The Bible doesn't say don't think negative thoughts. It says think good thoughts. There's a difference. I'm sure the Chelsea and the Arsenal fans know that. That there's a difference between playing defensive, and playing offensive. We've got to be offensive in a nice way. That's what that scripture is saying, that don't wait for the thoughts to attack your mind. Actually be habitually choosing your thoughts. You know, I always joke that when I go shopping, there are certain aisles I avoid. The reason is because if I don't avoid them, one way or the other, the things that shouldn't get into my shopping basket get into my shopping basket. And when they get into my shopping basket, they eventually get into my kitchen cupboard. The challenge with that is if it gets into my kitchen cupboard, it eventually gets on my plate. And I'm sure you know the end of the story. So that's the way to deal with toxic thinking. One, does it pass the Philippians 4:8 test? If it doesn't pass the Philippians 4:8 test, that's the recognition of it. I'm going off what you call it now. I'm going off slides, but that's fine. The important thing is that we're in the flow. If it doesn't pass the Philippians 4 test, that's recognition. That's the recognition part of it in terms of dealing with toxic thinking. If it doesn't pass the Philippians 4 test, then we recognize it, we should be rationalizing it in terms of, really, does this align with where I want to go? And you see, our mind tells us lies. Don't take everything verbatim. That's one of the strongest things that cognitive behavioral therapists teach us. Don't believe everything that comes to your mind. It's been influenced by all sorts of things, it's been censored by all sorts of things. Social media being one of them. So rationalize it. What if I told my friend this thing, what are they going to do? How are they going to respond? Are they going to have the same posture as myself on this matter? What could be the other factors that are in the equation that I cannot see currently or that I'm not considering? When I sleep over this and I wake up in the morning, am I still going to feel this way? Because one of the reasons why people say don't take a major decision when you've had a poor sleep or when you're tired is because when we're tired and our mind doesn't work well. We overestimate dangers, we underestimate opportunities, and the mind is just not firing as it should. So we recognize the toxic thoughts, we are rationalizing it, and if we find out that it doesn't pass the Philippians 4 test, what's the next hour? We reject it. Because the challenge of modern day life is that some of us, and every one of us, have to continually act. It's continuous work. It's ongoing work. We are having toxic, rogue thoughts, harmful thoughts, living rent-free in our heads. I'm not paying rent, and I'm wrecking havoc, and we're not doing anything about it. If it's quarter, somebody who is not entitled to the property comes into a property. Maybe you went to Tesco or you went on holiday and you come back and somebody's been living there, and you pay the mortgage or you actually got the title deed to the house or the tenancy is in your name. You will check them out in no time. But sometimes we just allow rogue thoughts to roam free in our minds. And not challenging thinking or thoughts is subtle permission for them to exist. So not saying anything about it is actually saying it's okay. So as long as you don't challenge it, it's there just doing its own thing. It's subtle at work. But because we can't see it, the more deeply we think in thoughts, the more deeply it's entrenched. It's basically, when we are thinking thoughts, we're actually changing the railroads in our brains. And the stronger those network of roads are, the quicker the message is passed, the stronger the message is, and the more difficult it is to break the pattern. That's why we need to give compassion and empathy to people who are suffering with addiction. It's not because they haven't got the willpower. It's a lot more than that. There's a lot happening in their brains on a cellular level that is. So they need empathy. They need people who are going to come alongside with them and go to hold on to their hope, to be the custodians of their hope until we can give it back to them. So that was a bit of a digression, but I hope that was helpful. Right. So depression is quite like I said, it's not because somebody is not strong, it's not because somebody is not confessing scripture enough, it's not because they are living in sin. That's the other one that commonly we get in church. It is the mental, it is the medical condition, and it can also be addressed. And the good thing is that people also feel, oh, somebody has had a diagnosis of depression, they're going to live with it all their lives. It's not actually what the science says. when somebody has had the first episode of depression, there is a 50% chance that in their lifetime they will have another one. And that's why psychiatrists, cognitive behavioral therapists, psychiatric nurses, occupational therapists are always very aggressive in treating or trying to address the first episode of depression, because of the strongest chance. And that's why it's also important to seek help early, because that first one is the strongest chance that we really have to push back the tide and limit the risk that it happens again. Because when we don't, after number 2, the risk then goes up to 80%. And after number 3, then it becomes really a challenge. And that's why it's important to seek. That's why help seeking is a very important thing. That's the reason to go out and seek help. And the good thing is that people say, oh, I'm going to be on medication forever. That's not true as well. Because we also do know that one, even for treating the first depressive episode, does not, it only means, usually a depressive episode lasts about 6 months. But the other thing is that we usually then say people should remain on medication 6 months after they have become well. And the reason for that is that then limits their risk of becoming unwell again. The other good news is that the first thing that is recommended or prescribed for depression, if it's mild or moderate, is actually not antidepressants. It's exercise, it's rest, it's good food, it's stress management, it's learning to know the triggers and changing the things in our lives that may actually be pushing us to go over the edge. And we now know that those things can equally be effective. It's talking therapy. Like I said, I'm biased about talking therapy. Maybe it's because my daughter is a talking therapist herself, so I'm always rooting for them, and I think they do a brilliant job. I think cognitive behavioral therapy can be life-changing. I've seen it happen to other people. I've seen it literally people, because basically what CBT does, it helps us to recognize those rogue thoughts and how to deal with them and what to do with them. And when we think right, our life goes in the right direction. So when the Bible says that guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life, I think one translation says, mind how you think. It leads the direction of your life. That could not be more powerful. That could not be more true in terms of what we now know in neuroscience. That's our thinking. Actually, it's like it sets the course of our lives. It won't happen overnight. That's the thing, and that's why it's easy to do and easy not to do. It's easy to tell. So you're right. Okay, easy to do and not to do. Right. Okay. So basically, that's really depression in a nutshell. Those are the symptoms of it, and of course, the sad ultimate consequence of depression, sadly, sometimes is suicide, which is another topic on its own. However, that can be prevented. If early help is sought and early help is achieved. Let's show the video on anxiety. So that's the depression we've dealt with. Like I said, we're going to have a full question and answer session. So if we have any questions, please just let's write them down, and then we can go with that in the question and answer.
Anxious in difficult or threatening situations is a feeling of worry or fear that usually stops once the situation is over. Anxiety becomes a problem when the feelings are too strong or carry on long after you need them. With anxiety, you worry all the time and find it impossible to concentrate. You might feel tired and irritable and struggle to sleep. When anxiety goes on for a while, it's easy to feel depressed. Anxiety has many physical symptoms too. These include sweating, breathlessness, feeling sick, and an increased heart rate. It's easy to think these are signs of a physical illness, which can make anxiety even worse. Anxiety takes three main forms, and most people experience more than one of them. Generalized anxiety disorder is where you experience symptoms of anxiety most of the time. Panic attacks are sudden, unpredictable attacks of anxiety in situations you find difficult. They can also come on out of the blue. The feelings come on suddenly and reach a peak in about 10 minutes. A phobia is a fear of something that's not really dangerous. The nearer you get to that thing, the more anxious you feel, so you stay away. One example is agoraphobia, which is a fear of being in public spaces that might be difficult to leave. Luckily, there are steps you can take to overcome your anxiety. If your anxiety comes from a recent problem, it can help to talk with a good listener who you trust and respect. Self-help groups are a great place to talk and share different ways of coping with people who understand what you're going through. There are specific ways of relaxing to help control your anxiety. You can learn them through groups, from professionals, or from self-help books. You might be too worried to seek help for anxiety in case people think that you're mad. They won't. Anxiety is a common problem, and it's much better to get help than suffer in silence. Cognitive behavioural therapy can help you understand how your thinking habits can make anxiety worse or even cause it. You can practice CBT in groups or individually. You can even give yourself CBT through computer programs and self-help books. Medication can also play a part in the treatment of anxiety or phobias. Whatever you decide, remember anxiety is very common. Lots of people have overcome it, and so will you. To find out more about anxiety, visit the Royal College of Psychiatrists website.
Right. I think that summarizes my slides. However, I think there are a few things to say there. One of them being that there's a lot we can do in dealing with anxiety before we get to medication. There's quite a lot we can do, a lot. I think exercise has been spoken about. I think one of them was also CBT, that we can refer ourselves to talking therapies. Now we can self-refer is possible. But what's also now possible is what's called computerized CBT. There's also evidence that you don't need, for some people, they don't need to engage with the therapist. Sometimes it's not possible because of time, because of work, because of parenting. There are other issues that could really make it a challenge, even maybe physical conditions, where, in fact, quite a lot of CBT therapy is delivered online these days, quite a number of CBT therapists don't even go out to work, they work from home. But you can also administer CBT to yourself. There is, I think, computerized CBT, there's a website, it's called livinglifetothefull.com. Livinglifetothefull.com or LLTTF, if you type in any of them. It's either livinglifetothefull.com or LLTTF.com. Renowned professor of psychiatry, Professor Chris Williams. So it's reputable, it's as solid as it comes. Glasgow, based in Glasgow, he's been doing this work, particularly with churches as well. He does quite a lot of, so I get the sense living life to the full does give something away, but we'll get to that. But it's really very versatile website in terms of, particularly people are looking for a foretaste of what does it feel like to engage with a therapist. That might be a good place to start. Really going on that website and looking at what's there, because it will give you an insight as to what it feels like to engage in therapy. So. Just trying to roll to the right place here. Okay, we've done that. Okay. Right, yes, okay. Right, that's the one I wanted to. So one of the most powerful things we can do, one of the most powerful skills that we can learn in terms of managing our mental health is to learn deep breathing exercises. How to breathe. Most of us don't breathe well. And when we're anxious, it becomes even more shallow. We now know that there are breathing techniques that can actually trigger the vagus nerve. Like I said, the vagus nerve is the longest nerve in the body. It goes right from the bottom there, right to the back of our, to the bottom of our back, and spreads all over. And it controls all the major, it affects all the major functions of the body. It's the downline of the body. Is the nerve that tells your body it's okay to rest and relax. It's the one that counteracts all the neurochemical chaos that happens when we want to flee or fight. So it tells your body all is well, and we can easily trigger it. That's the good news. And that's what I want to teach us. If there's one thing, and I'm not going to I promise you, but I think this is really important. So let's all sit down. Let's just unfold our legs, sit down. And let me just explain the science of this before we do it. It's nothing mystical. Because I'm sure when I speak in Christian communities, people are thinking, what is there about to do? It's all scientific. What I want to do now is that I want to help you to now to trigger your vagus nerve. And when you know how to do that, you can do it by yourself, anytime, anywhere. When you are facing exam stress, when you're about to go into an interview, when you can feel your heart racing, when you want to give a speech, when you want to have that difficult conversation with your boss or with your downline. It works all the time. I use it all the time. That's the way I was able to get my COVID jabs, because though I'm a doctor, I don't like needles. At least when they are coming to me, I don't mind giving it to other people. But when I'm the residents, I've got a good one. So let's all sit down with our legs unfolded. Let's feel put our palms facing our thighs, our palms facing our thighs. And we can close our eyes. I think it's good for concentration. And then feel the back, the small of your back on the backrests. Just feel it. So just sitting comfortably. Now, the counts that we are going to do is we are going to count to 4, we are going to count to 7, and we are going to count to 8. That is the 4, 7, 8 counts. The 4 is that we are going to deeply take in breath into your lungs, closing your mouth and taking in air into your lungs. And we're going to count to 4. So I'm just giving the instructions and then we'll do it. So we're going to count to 4 as we take in breath into our lungs. Feel it in all the way in with your mouth closed. And then we're going to count down to 7. So 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. That's still holding it. And then we're then going to let go, opening our mouth like we want to make a whoosh sound. Slowly for 8 seconds. So basically, we take the right posture first to relax our bodies. And then with our palms facing our thighs, where I can see some people are already dropping off to sleep. Every time I see it, it happens. Honestly, believe me. Because it's true. Because what we are doing is that we are really telling the body in the deepest form possible that it's okay to rest. So, right, please do that. Sitting down. Everyone ready now? Okay, so now let's start the 4. We're going to take in breath into our lungs as fully as possible, and we're using our mouth, our nose, and not our mouth. Our mouth closed. Okay, let's start now. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to hold it as we count down from 7. Just hold that breath. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Well done. Now we're going to do the whoosh sound, putting it through our mouth and Did anyone feel anything? What? Yeah, I'm going to. Anyone feel anything? Almost, okay. Somebody's yawning, or if people are yawning, I'm shouting. It's good stuff, it just means it's working. Honestly, it does, because and when we do that over and over again, sometimes people in 4 cycles, 6 cycles, what happens is that our body calms down. The heart rate slows down. I know it's all, I remember, I think recently, I was doing a written test, and I did that just before I went into the consultation. My pulse rate went to 66 or so. So it just tells your body it's time to calm down. And that's one skill we can continue to use in any situation. It helps with anxiety as well, particularly. Any stress, it just tells your body. And there are other things, engaging with nature, walking in nature, 20 minutes walk now, particularly in the woods, we now know that that's also very therapeutic. Therapeutic in the sense that we now know that one of the ways that works is that plants actually release chemicals that we're not aware of that also tells our body to be calm. That's why people do, it's a grounding that is called now when people walk barefooted. Sorry. Yes. People sometimes as believers we think, oh, those things they feel a bit mystical, but there is a science backing them up now. We now know walking in nature, exposure to sunlight, particularly the first hour of the day, it sets our cortisol levels to low. Having a cold plunge. These days, after I've had my warm shower, I don't like cold, by the way. But I'm also aware that the figures of my age are adding up. So I've got to be very intentional. So 2 minutes shower after you've had a warm shower, having a cold plunge also puts your cortisol levels down. It's really about playing those games on a system to do the things that bring down stress. And those things, so 10 to 15 minutes walk. There are little things, but they add up. 10 to 15 minutes walk after a meal, a cold shower, having 10 to 15 minutes sunlight, and 10 to 15 minutes exercise as soon as possible in the day. People say, and I'm sure people are thinking, oh yes, when I wake up, I would want to pray. That's correct. Sometimes I also go on a prayer walk. In that case, I can do that. I can have the sunlight, and I can. But there are little things, but they really have a compounding effect on our mental well-being, and they all add up. So ecotherapy, exercise, also even engaging with animals, engaging with nature, that's also been known to be calming. And I've talked about singing, I've talked about humming. All of those just reset our brain and tell the brain it's okay to rest, it's okay to that everything's okay. Right. So I think I'll hand over at this point to Sister Gloria.
Thank you so much, Dr. AJAYI. What a jam-packed, loaded morning, to be honest, with all sorts of fantastic points of insights and practical tips. So I just want to do a temperature check, because we are scheduled to have a 5-minute break. Do you need that, or shall we carry on? I didn't hear. What time is lunch? My sister's answered my lunch. It's 12:40, so time. So Hands up, we want a 5-minute break just to stretch the legs.
Yeah, we'll take it at
5 minutes? So where are we
Are we
now?
sticking
So
to
we're,
5
yeah, we'll stick to, so we're 12 o'clock now, so if everyone can come back at 5 minutes past 12, then we will move on to the next session. Okay,
Yeah, people are afraid of coming up into this. We have some deadline last year. But it is submitted deadline on Friday.